Growing up in the 90s, I feel like I grew up during the peak era of Disney because, well, there was just so much cool stuff that Disney was doing. If you're talking about movies, they were coming out with new IPs left and right, most of them very successful and timeless classics, in my opinion. The Lion King, Aladdin, Toy Story, these are some of Disney's finest films, and they were all coming out around the same time in that early to mid 90s era. Of course, with the success of movies, you also had video games coming from it. And Disney games were always considered to be like a high quality thing. Castle of Illusion, Donald Duck games, like there were so many awesome games, and then you had great games based on these films as well, like Aladdin and Toy Story, and to some extent The Lion King. I felt like it was a little too difficult for its own good, but there were super high quality games with high production value, and it was just a great time to be growing up because you really got the peak of Disney. Now, Disney in 2024 is really nothing like we've seen Disney be in the past, and that's really for a myriad of reasons. I don't necessarily care because I'm a grown-ass man and I don't watch new Disney films all that much. I'll stick with the classics. But with all of Disney's short-sighted downfalls happening in 2024 and really the past couple of years, one area I think people need to give Disney credit in is with gaming, because Disney has been slowly but surely coming back with a resurgence of classic games to the modern era, and I think it's something that needs to be talked about and actually shown in a positive light with this. You know, Bob Iger kind of sucks, but at least someone at Disney seems to have a brain and is like, hey, these classic games are pretty good. We should probably bring them into the modern era. Of course, this all kind of started out with games like Aladdin and Lion King coming out of the blue and getting a dual pack release with these two games onto modern platforms. You could kind of go back to like DuckTales Remastered and stuff like that. Like, that was a super well done game, of course, but it felt more like a one-off because it wasn't really something that they were actively pursuing with DuckTales. Great game, don't get me wrong, but I feel like we kind of got a jolt in the ass when it came to Disney games coming back to modern platforms with stuff like Aladdin and Lion King that came out. Great versions of the games, super fun to play, budget priced. It seemed like a match made in heaven. Of course, we've gotten some other smaller titles from Disney coming out, but one IP that they've definitely been leaning into is Star Wars. Now, you could say that Disney has ruined Star Wars, and I mean, I probably wouldn't argue with you too much, but classic Star Wars is still classic Star Wars. Like, it's still great stuff, and probably some of it is just our nostalgia talking with, oh, how dare they ruin the classics and retcon stuff, but it's like, you know, I'll just watch the old stuff. I'm not going to worry about the new stuff. But when it comes to Star Wars, there's been so many classic games, and once again, Disney's been doing a good job of bringing these into the modern era. Started out with some of the more outlier games like The Force Awakens, Jedi Outcast 2. Like, that's all cool stuff, you know. You have varying degrees of quality with those titles. I'm not a huge fan of really any of those games because they're not really classics as I consider them to be classics. But then you have games like Star Wars Dark Forces Remastered, which is coming out this week. I've actually been playing the game on the Nintendo Switch, and I will have a video up when the embargo lifts for it. But let me tell you, I have been waiting to play this game for over 2 decades. This game came out in the early 90s. I didn't have a PC then. I didn't have a PlayStation 1 then, so I never got to experience this game. But it was always a game that caught my eye and caught my imagination. A new story, voice acting, interesting Doom-style gameplay, but it's Star Wars. It seemed like a match made in heaven in the 90s. So for Disney to sort of recognize that and realize, hey, there's a market for our old games, I think it has to be commended. I think that more companies should be doing things like this. And they're not really just vanilla re-releases. Like, yeah, something like Aladdin and Lion King, you can't really do too much to enhance those games. But these newer Star Wars games that are coming out that are actually older Star Wars games, they're putting time, they're putting effort into these games, and it shows that Disney has kind of given the green light for classic games to be brought back into the modern era. It's a way to make money, and let's be real, Disney wants to milk you dry for every cent that you have, and if one way to do it is through gaming, I mean, they're going to explore that. But this latest Nintendo Direct partner showcase that we got, I think really just sort of showed like how deep they are willing to go to make this a thing. Of course, you have Epic Mickey Rebrushed, which what did I call it? I think I called it refurbished. Look, I was half asleep making that Nintendo Direct video. It is kind of refurbished though. Like, they've improved the controls, they've improved the graphics and stuff like that. But this is Mickey Mouse, and this is a timeless Mickey Mouse game that many people absolutely adored when it first came out, myself included. I thought the original Epic Mickey was a fantastic game. Epic Mickey 2, maybe not so much, but the original game was absolutely awesome. And it always made sense to kind of give it a new coat of paint and re-release it into the public as a new title. Now, the $60 price tag, that's a little bit more intimidating and kind of goes against what I've been saying, because most of these Star Wars games have been budget price releases, but Epic Mickey being a higher property, you know, it's Mickey Mouse. Like, I think if one thing can sort of trump over Star Wars on the hierarchy of IPs that Disney has, I feel like it's kind of going to be Mickey Mouse. He is the face of the franchise, but we kind of got to see, like, I guess how this game sort of plays out. But my most excited announcement from the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase, what I felt should have ended the show because it was by far the most interesting thing, was Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, the original Star Wars Battlefront games that released on the PS2 and the Xbox, coming to the modern era in a dual package with online multiplayer. This looks absolutely awesome. They gave it a whole new coat of paint. They, of course, added in new content, which, I don't know, it kind of seems like some of that content was actually like fan-made content. There's a very interesting sort of story behind that. I guess we'll have to wait until the games actually release in order to determine that. But these games are iconic. These games were absolutely mind-blowing experiences back in the day. So to see these games getting a new coat of paint, being re-released with the online multiplayer intact, with new content, that's awesome, man. I can't wait to play those games again, because I realize that I don't necessarily need new games all the time. Sometimes revisiting the classics is just as good as getting a brand new game, because you at least know with a classic game whether or not you're going to like it, especially if you played it back in the day. I think as long as the controls are good in Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, this game is going to be an absolute hit. Multiplayer games, online multiplayer games in 2024, they're not hitting quite like they used to. You know, Helldivers 2 is doing absolute numbers, and my hat is off to them. But really, I feel like online multiplayer games were more plentiful back during like the Xbox 360 era than they are now. There was a lot more sort of deviations within the online multiplayer. I played the newer Star Wars Battlefront games. I just felt they were over convoluted and they weren't sort of simple and fun like the first two games were. Maybe that's just sort of my age talking with this, but I'm super excited for that. I'm super excited for Epic Mickey. I'm super excited to talk about Star Wars Dark Forces. And yes, we could sit here and argue that Disney sucks for hours and hours and hours and all of the bad things that they do. And I get it. I probably won't argue with you too much on it because most of it is pretty much true. I mean, you could sort of see the proof is in the pudding with this. But when they kind of tap into the classic stuff and they're allowing companies to remake, remaster, and re-release these old classic games, you have to admit, it's pretty damn nostalgic and it's pretty damn cool. And even if you're a younger gamer who wasn't around for that sort of stuff, with the modern controls and stuff like that, you can easily jump into these games and experience them and see a different era of gaming that has kind of been gone by the wayside over the past couple of decades or so. I don't know, man. I feel like Disney gets so much shit online, and rightfully so, but this is a positive, and I feel like not enough people are talking about it. Maybe people just don't care about these Disney games, but I do, damn it. I've been rewatching the old Star Wars movies. Maybe I'll go to the prequels as well. I'm not watching those new ones. I am not watching those new ones. No, sir. No, ma'am. No, they, them. No, thank you. Not for me. But I'll check out, you know, the prequels again. I don't like the little kid, or Jar Jar in it, but like Darth Maul kind of outweighs all of that. Like Darth Maul kicks ass. Anyways, guys, Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the Disney resurgence in gaming in really, it started a couple years ago, but I feel like we're really getting into like full steam ahead, Steamboat Willie, if you will, wink, wink, in 2024 and beyond. And if you're excited for it and what Disney games you would like to see brought into the modern era, I'm sure you have some that are maybe a bit more obscure or stuff like that. Let me know what you think of that in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.